Commerce Alive today presents
10 more defunct dead supermarkets. The first O'Malley's Food Market opened in 1966 near 106th Street and College Avenue in an area of Hamilton County by Joe O'Malley. There were 8 O'Malley's Food Market when O'Malley sold the company to Marsh Supermarkets in June 2001. Marsh kept the O'Malley's banner as their upscale banner. In January and July 2003, Marsh purchased 3 Mr. D's Fresh Food Markets in 2 separate deals and converted all 3 stores to the O'Malley's banner. Under Sun Capital Partners, the O'Malley's stores were slowly closed. There were 5 O'Malley's stores left by mid-2009. Since that time, 4 stores were closed in October 2009 in Indianapolis, March 2010 in Carmel, November 2014 in Bloomington, and October 2016 in Indianapolis to leave a lone store in Carmel. The lone O'Malley was included in the list of stores that were to be closed and liquidated starting on June 15, 2017. The store had closed by July 8, 2017. The Hinky Dinky grocery store chain was started by Jewel, Henry, and Albert Newman, brothers, and Ben Silver, a cousin, in Omaha in 1925. Another supermarket chain already existing was called Piggly Wiggly. Hoping to take advantage of the public's affection for a cute name, Piggly Wiggly was very successful. They came up with Hinky Dinky, which was taken from the World War I song, Hinky Dinky Parlez-vous. In 1972, Hinky Dinky was purchased by Kohl Companies of Dallas, which operated the Tom Thumb grocery chain. At its peak, Hinky Dinky operated approximately 50 stores. But Kohl was using profits from Hinky Dinky to support the operations of the Tom Thumb stores, and comparatively little reinvestment was made in the Hinky Dinky stores. A 1984 strike by unionized workers also hurt revenue. By the mid-1980s, many Hinky Dinky stores had been sold or closed, leaving only a handful of stores in scattered locations. Ron Badley purchased the Hinky Dinky name and several stores from Kohl in 1985. In 2000, the remaining stores were sold to grocery distributor Nash Finch, which dropped the name on all of the stores. Hinky Dinky was a pioneer in partnering with banks to open in-store banking offices. For instance, in April 1974, the retail chain entered into an agreement with the First Federal Savings and Loan to deploy dedicated stalls while providing banking services within the stores. These booths were equipped with a terminal that enabled verification, recording transactions, and updating accounts directly with the bank on the spot. The terminals became so popular amongst savings banks in the late 1970s that they became known by the Hinky Dinky moniker amongst bankers. Maxwell Kohl, who had operated traditional grocery stores since 1927, built his first supermarket in 1946, the first in what would become a southeastern Wisconsin chain known as Kohl's Food Stores. In September 1962, after building Kohl's Food Stores into the largest supermarket chain in the Milwaukee area, Kohl opened his first department store in Brookfield, Wisconsin. He positioned Kohl's between the higher-end department stores and the discounters, selling everything from candy to engine oil to sporting equipment. In 1972, the British American Tobacco Company's U.S. retail division, Battis Incorporated, bought a controlling interest in Kohl's Corporation, which at the time operated 50 grocery stores, 6 department stores, 3 drug stores, and 3 liquor stores. The Kohl family, led by Alan Kohl and Herb Kohl, continued to manage the company. Herb Kohl left the management in 1979, eventually becoming a United States Senator and owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. The firm then expanded Kohl's presence from 10 to 39 stores in Wisconsin. The grocery stores were sold to A&P in 1983, operating under the name Kohl's Food Store, and later Kohl's Food Emporium. In February 2003, A&P put the Kohl's Food Stores up for sale, as part of an effort to reduce debt. That same year, A&P closed all Kohl's Food Stores locations and the Kohl family left remaining management. Jewel was rumored to buy Kohl's, but that deal fell through. The Madison area stores were sold to Roundy's. Founded in 1899 by Danish immigrant George S. Rasmussen along with his brother Thorvald in Chicago, Illinois, the retailer spread to about 160 stores by 1920, and annual sales approached $13 million. By the end of the 20s, National Tea had over 600 locations in the Chicago area alone and another 1,000 stores nationwide. Sales grew to about $90 million a year. Many of these stores were closed or sold during the Great Depression, but National Tea remained among the 10 largest grocery chains in the United States for most of the 20th century. In 1955, when annual sales topped $600 million and the company had nearly 20,000 employees nationwide, National Tea was purchased by George Weston Limited, a large Canadian grocery retailer, later renamed Loblaw Companies. Most National stores were in the Mississippi Valley, including in Louisiana. During the 1950s, it acquired about 500 new stores by buying up smaller chains. Eventually, National, renamed National Supermarkets, was pared down to operations in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, and Louisiana. It was a major chain in the St. Louis, Indianapolis and New Orleans areas. Later Loblaw sold off some of its stores to the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, better known as A&P, in 1976. Clemens Markets acquired National Tea in 1995 from Loblaw Companies. Immediately following this purchase, Clemens received approval from the Federal Trade Commission to sell the National Tea New Orleans division to Schwegman Giant Supermarkets of Metairie, Louisiana, which later sold them to A&P, which finally sold them to Rouse Markets in 2007. National itself had cemented the number 2 spot in St. Louis by acquiring several former Kroger locations in the Kroger Distribution Center in the market when the latter exited St. Louis in 1986. Kroger and National had been battling for the number 2 and 3 spots in the St. Louis market since the 1970s, swapping rankings several times over throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Clemens, to avoid having too much market share in St. Louis, was required to sell off some of the National store locations, which it did to James Gibson, who later was indicted for fraud involving structured settlements. National Supermarkets no longer has a separate existence as a retail chain. Victory Supermarkets was a grocery store chain based in Leominster, Massachusetts that included 20 stores across Massachusetts and New Hampshire. It was founded in 1923 by two DiGeronimo brothers and was originally named after the American war effort in World War I. It acquired 4 Shaw's locations in the Boston metro area since around 1999 and 2000. The family-run company was sold to Hannaford Brothers Company in 2004 after a successful 81-year stretch. When it was sold, the company employed over 2,600 workers and had an annual revenue of $385 million. In 2005, the website began redirecting people to the Hannaford website. Following their deployment and America's subsequent victory in World War I, Italian-American brothers, James and Louis DiGeronimo, created a corner market in 1923 in their hometown of Leominster, Massachusetts. This was a small grocery store very different from what it would grow to be. It was owned and operated by the two brothers and specialized in fresh meats and home delivery. The first true supermarket was opened in 1955 by the founders' sons. James' sons were Arthur and Jimmy, while Anthony and Joe were Louis. These 4 men expanded the business greatly until its closing nearly half a century later. This supermarket opened where the future headquarters would be located, on North Main Street in Leominster. During the 1980s, the third and final generation of DiGeronimos came into the family business. This generation was composed of Arthur's sons Arthur Jr., David, Michael, and Stephen, and Jimmy's sons Jimmy, John, and Robert. Along with their fathers, these 10 men made up the DiGeronimo brothers featured on the company's sign and logo. With the arrival of these new owners, Victory saw great expansion company-wide. These sons took over the day-to-day running of the business and created many new stores and removed old ones over the next 2 decades. After a long and successful 80 years of family-run business, Victory Supermarkets owners decided to sell the company. It was bought in September 2004 by Hannaford Brothers Company, a subsidiary of the Belgian Delchamps Group, for $175 million. The sale gave Hannaford 19 of Victory's 20 stores. These stores were converted into Hannaford grocery stores, while the last remaining store, located in Athol, was shut down because Hannaford already had a larger, more modern store there. A few years later, the Athol location is now owned by Ocean State Job Lot. Hannaford closed the Ayer location in early 2015 and is expected to reopen as an independently owned shop and safe supermarket supplied by Hannaford. In July 2016, it was announced that 8 of the Hannaford locations would be sold to Big Y due to the merger of the parent companies of Hannaford and Stop & Shop. In 1927, Delchamps opened its first warehouse at the intersection of Commerce and St. Anthony Streets in order for the company to carry higher quality merchandise and a larger variety of foods. The warehouse was moved to a larger facility at the foot of Dauphin Street 4 years later, and a larger, more modern warehouse was built at the intersection of Water and Adams Streets. Additional warehouse space was utilized in the Happy Hills community north of downtown Mobile and at the Alabama State Docks. Delchamps opened its first supermarket at the intersection of St. Louis Street and Washington Avenue in 1928. This was the largest grocery store in Mobile and, moreover, the largest food store in Alabama. 3 years later, in 1931, Delchamps opened its first out-of-state location in Pensacola, Florida. A rival grocery chain, the Coleman Grocery Company, was acquired in 1937, making Delchamps the largest grocery chain in the city, with 10 stores. In 1941, Delchamps opened its first store in Montgomery. In order to make future expansions possible, Delchamps incorporated in 1946. This incorporation allowed employees to own stock in the company as well. In 1964, Delchamps joined Topco, a national, cooperatively owned purchasing association that wielded as much purchasing power as the largest supermarket chains. The move made it possible for Delchamps to purchase grade A foodstuffs and related merchandise at competitive prices. In 1985, Delchamps unveiled its 42,057 square foot superstore supermarket concept. This format featured a bakery, delicatessen and salad bar in addition to conventional grocery store amenities. The Delchamps superstores operated on a 24-hour basis. The first Delchamps superstore opened at the Northgate Shopping Center, now known as Dauphin Square, on Dauphin Street in West Mobile. Over the next decade, Delchamps Superstore supermarkets were constructed, replacing outmoded Delchamps grocery stores and markets along the Gulf Coast. In 1997, the chain was purchased by Jackson, Mississippi-based Jitney Jungle, itself a well-known brand name in its home state in neighboring Louisiana, for $213.6 million in cash. At the time of the acquisition, Delchamps had 118 supermarkets and 10 liquor stores in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. A total of 114 Delchamps stores were purchased, with a handful being closed and another small group being rebranded as Jitney Jungle. However, the purchase and Jitney's takeover by an investment firm proved to be ill-advised, and by 1999 the combined chains went into bankruptcy. The next year some stores were sold off to competitor. Among the last known to close was the Delchamps in Milton, Florida, whose liquidation lasted into January 2001. Clemens was one of 3 independent supermarket chains to identify as family markets in Greater Philadelphia. Another was Genwardy's, which was sold to Safeway Incorporated in 2000. The last one was Junta's, which went out of business soon after Clemens. During the 1980s and 1990s, Clemens expanded by opening many new locations. Eventually Clemens operated 20 supermarkets in 3 Pennsylvania counties, moving its headquarters to Culpsville, Pennsylvania in 1993. The chain eventually acquired many Thriftway/shop and bag franchises. Many of these were also former Acme, A&P, Food Fair, and Penn Fruit stores. Clemens later acquired many former Shop and Save stores which themselves started as Super G. In 1999, it introduced its upscale food source division, which had 3 locations. One of these stores was a former Zagara's, a gourmet supermarket chain itself a division of Genwardy's and later Safeway. In late 2006, Clemens was acquired by Giant Carlisle, but several of its stores in Montgomery and Bucks counties in Pennsylvania were sold to Super Fresh. 2 of the 3 food source stores have been closed since the buyout. The remaining store is now owned by Giant Food Stores. Giant Markets, also known as Giant Food Markets, was a supermarket chain based in Binghamton, New York. Founded in 1933 by Mitri and George Kohl, it was the first self-service supermarket in New York. The company eventually employed over 1,000 employees and operated 12 supermarkets in the greater Binghamton area. Giant sold their franchise to Weis Markets in August 2009. On Thursday, May 21, 2009, Giant Markets was bought by Weis Markets. According to notices received by Giant Associates, as of August 23, 2009 their employment ended at Giant Markets, and most of the 1,100 employees were expected to have jobs at Weis. However, many workers were laid off by Weis Markets. On Wednesday, August 12, 2009, Giant Markets announced that it was closing its store at 56 Main Street in Binghamton effective Saturday, August 15 at 6 p.m., 1 week prior to the takeover date. All associates at that store were transferred to other Giant Markets locations. The store closure is a decision made by Weis Markets as part of the buyout. It is now a Family Dollar. Giant Markets, formerly in Binghamton, New York, and the successor Weis Markets in New York, is separate from the larger Giant Food Stores LLC supermarket chain, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, that is a subsidiary of European grocery conglomerate Ahold Delhaize. Originally, brothers Judson McCarty Holman and William Henry Holman and their cousin William Bonner McCarty founded a grocery store in Jackson, Mississippi, in 1912. Over the next few years, they opened additional stores, but in 1916, one of their stores found itself unable to collect the amounts owed by some of its customers, and the idea of changing over to a cash-and-carry business model began to take root. While W.H. Holman was away serving in World War I, his brother and cousin decided to change over to cash and carry, and after he returned from the war, they opened the first Jitney Jungle on East Capitol Street in Jackson on April 19, 1919. The three patented the Jitney Jungle concept in 1920, but were soon hit with a patent infringement lawsuit brought by Piggly Wiggly. To disprove the infringement allegations, McCarty took a trip west and found cash and carry stores there, which contradicted Piggly Wiggly's assertion that it had originated the idea. The Supreme Court found in Jitney Jungle's favor. The chain gradually expanded across Mississippi and into neighboring states, eventually ending up with stores as far away as Florida. In 1973, the chain had 38 grocery stores, 6 gasoline stations, and 5 drugstores, and by 1992, Jitney Jungle had over 100 stores. In the mid-90s the family sold Jitney Jungle to New York investment firm Bruckman, Rosser, Sherrill and Company for $400 million. By the end of 90s, the chain had become debt-ridden from mismanagement, and its ill-advised 1997 acquisition of Delchamps. In 2000, Winn-Dixie acquired Jitney Jungle and Delchamps, and rebranded the stores to Winn-Dixie. In 2005, Winn-Dixie closed many stores, including most of its stores in Mississippi that had previously been Jitney Jungle stores. Some of these stores remain closed, with no particular prospects of being acquired and reopened. Others have taken on new lives. Henry's Farmers Market was an operator of natural food stores. The company was established in 1943 when Henry Boney and his family opened a fruit stand on a street corner in San Diego. Henry's Farmers Market was established in 1943 when San Diego businessman Henry Boney and his family opened a fruit stand and bought a truckload of peaches and sold them on a street corner in San Diego. In December 2010, Henry's announced plans to open its first Boise, Idaho store in the downtown area, in 2011. However, a week after the announcement, plans for the Boise store were stalled. The Henry's chain included 23 stores in Southern California and 1 in Northern California. In 1999, Wild Oats Markets Incorporated acquired Henry's Marketplace from the Henry Boney family. Following a merger in August 2007, Wild Oats was acquired by Whole Foods Market. Soon thereafter, in October 2007, Whole Foods Market sold all 35 Henry's Farmers Market and Sun Harvest Market stores to a subsidiary of Los Angeles grocer Smart & Final Incorporated, for $166 million. Earlier in 2007, Smart & Final had been acquired by the private equity firm Apollo Management. Sprouts, an Arizona-based market, is the second specialty market brand developed by the Henry Boney family. The first store opened in Chandler, Arizona in 2002, who sold Henry's Marketplace in 1999, rebranded Henry's Farmers Market in 2004. In early 2011, Apollo Management announced that it would be merging Sprouts and Henry's Farmers Market. The combined company, which operates under the name Sprouts Farmers Market, had 98 stores and more than 7,000 employees at the time the transaction closed in the second quarter of 2011.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.